Okay, good morning from my side. I'm looking forward to give you a presentation about Austrian results, and we'll also try to give a focus to compare our results with Germany, because Austria and Germany has always a strong relationship, and especially when it comes to the PIAAC results, it's very interesting for both countries how the people in both countries perform. I give my presentation today with Felix Deichmann, he's a colleague from me. And about me, well, my name is Edward Stöger. I work at Statistics Austria. I'm the National Project Manager of PIAAC in Austria. And I'm working there since, I think, 18 years for PIAAC now, so it's a long time. Okay. The focus of my research has slightly changed because if you look at the title, it was also about the low performers. Well, this part we thought we skipped a little bit because we have new research. Because we are now presenting a combination of published research. It's a national report, volume 2, where we already presented the results about skill use, in particular about reading behavior for Austria. And we have new results because we in Austria were facing a decline in the proficiency, and the question was, how could that happen? So this will be a new research, and because of that, please do not cite or share without permission, because this second part is not published yet. So we already asked the organizers just to present it in the next year, when we have published our results. Well, the research question for this particular presentation here was, how did the adults from Austria and Germany perform in literary proficiency in both cycles? How did the reading activities, in particular skill use, so how did the reading activities of adults in Austria and Germany change over time, and how do changes in reading activities relate to the development of the literacy skills? So can we relate that results in Austria back to the reading behavior? Well, here is a chart about the results of the overall proficiency in literacy. There you can see that Germany, it's here, has more or less no change, no significant change in literacy proficiency. It's currently above the OECD average, 260 points is the OECD average, and Germany has achieved 266, so 6 points above the OECD average. Austria, we were facing a significant decline of 12 proficiency points, and this means that we are currently below the OECD average with 254 points. So we are 6 points below the OECD average. And compared to Austria, compared to the last cycle, we have been slightly above the OECD average, so we have now really a significant decrease. And for us, it was really, okay, what are the roots, what are the causes for that? And if you look at the whole OECD, you could see that, if you look at the countries, that the proficiency is stagnating or declining in the most OECD countries. Only Finland and Denmark are showing, an increased performance. So this was also interesting finding. I think what you know that in the most countries it's stagnating or declining, and the reason is why. So we look now at the particular topic. So how did the reading activities of adults in Austria and Germany change? And we did there some descriptive analysis of aggregated reading indices and single reading material. So we looked at both because we were interested in how is the indices and how the single items, the text items, also change over time. And therefore we did, we separated, we made some separate analysis, and we look at that. There are 6 items related to the reading frequency. Were used in both contexts, as in everyday life and at work, across both cycles. So these are the reading activities in everyday life. redirections or instructions, letters, memos or emails, articles, books, fiction, non-fiction, manuals, reference manuals, with bills, invoices. And we have that at both sides. So from our point, if you look at that, some are more complex and some are more easy. And this also, I think, well, interesting. So how it was operationalized, so how we made it concrete. And yeah, we'll look at that at the indices in general and at selected tasks or selected text formats in particular. Well, when we create the skill use indices, we look at the reading activities. We created our own reading activity indices that differ slightly from the OECD indices because we thought that the creation the OECD did was not perfect, so we changed it a little bit to make it more fair, to make it more precise. And for both cycles, the individual responses on the reading frequency was rated from 1 never, also I never read that specific type, to 5 every day. Across the 6 types of reading materials were summed up. And then thresholds were set to classify this sum into low, medium, and high activity. So we have 3 categories of reading activities, ensuring that the distribution cycle too closely matches to the OECD index distribution. So focusing on that, we looked there's not so much difference with the OECD creation. Okay, now I want to pass further to my colleague Felix, who will give you the insights now about the concrete results.
Yeah, hello and welcome also from my side. First of all, we are going to look at the overall indices in everyday life and at work between Austria and Germany. We can see that there's a somewhat diverging trend between those 2 countries, while in Germany it hasn't changed in everyday life between the first and the second cycle. There has been a slight downwards trend in Austria, which can be seen at the lower end, where there's a small increase in the low reading activities in everyday life. At work, there is also a small decrease or decline in Austria, which however is in the upper end, where we can see that the high reading activities were declining, whereas in Germany there's an opposite trend with an increase in reading activities, which mainly happen at the lower end, where the low share is declining. Now we have a look at 2 more specific text sources, which are that of simple and short texts on the one hand, which is we pick the letters, memos, and emails. Gesundheit. And on the other hand, we are looking at more complex reading materials, such as newspapers, magazines, or articles in newspapers, magazines, or newsletters. And we can see for the simple and short text forms that there's an increase in both countries. However, the increase in Germany is slightly larger than in Austria. This is true for both domains, for everyday life and at work. And with respect to the more complex reading materials, in form of newspapers, there's a small decline, or not a small, there is a decline, which is more pronounced in Austria than in Germany in both domains. And since literacy proficiency in Germany remained the same over time and was decreasing or is decreasing in Austria by 12 points, the following question comes up. Is the observed decline in Austria related to the overall decline in reading activities or skill use, and maybe more specifically to complex reading materials. To answer this question, we use mediation models, which are a form of structural equation models, and we estimate the indirect effect of the cycle via mediators on the literacy proficiency. We also control for 3 demographic shifting factors, which are age, education, and immigration or citizenship, which have been changing during the first and the second cycle to ensure that the estimated mediation effects are unbiased by the change of population composition. Yeah, we estimated separate models for each text item and also the indices. And here are the results, which unfortunately are not as we have hoped for, at least for the general indices of read home and read work. We see that there's no significant explanatory power or explanatory proportion of the 12 points decrease we observed in Austria. However, if we look at the more specific items, especially the reduction in more complex reading materials could have explained about 22% or 2.7 points with respect to reading in everyday life, and around 60% or 2 points in reading activities at work. However, the significant increase is mainly compensated by the reduction, by the increase in short-term, short and simple text sources. So in total, we don't see much of an explanation. So in conclusion, we concluded that caution is advised when using the indices in overall, when as fundamental differences, for example, that simple versus complex texts or analog versus digital texts can be concealed. Also, PIAAC, the PIAAC data in Austria provides the initial preliminary evidence that short text sources or the increase in short text sources over time can mainly compensate for the reduction in complex text sources. It would be also interesting to see if these results are similar for the German data or for other countries' data. So if the diverging trend between Austria and Germany we observed in the skill use can maybe be an explanation also why why the proficiency, literacy proficiency in Germany hasn't been decreasing as it was in Austria. Also to note, we did some further analysis on other factors, on the so-called trend items, which however also only explain a small proportion of the observed decline in Austria. These findings will be published in an Austrian expert report by the end of the year. So now I give back to Eduard.
This was the first conclusions related to the results of the skill use in concrete. But the further conclusions are for us, if you look at the Austrian results in general, we say that maybe other potential explanations related to the unclear causes for the results in Austria. So maybe we are facing a limited validity of the peer questionnaires, or maybe the questions may not fully capture the true changes. So maybe some of these questions need a revision. For example, if you look at the skill use questions, separate questions regarding maybe reading activities on digital and analog devices, because now if you looked at it in detail, it's together, they're asked together, so you cannot separate it. maybe there are some unrecorded factors outside the PIAAC survey to consider in future cycles, or, and this is a real key problem of the PIAAC data, we're thinking there are also some methodological changes between the cycles, and that could have caused some effects or some effects of the results. So for Austria especially, maybe the removal of the paper-based assessment. In Austria we were facing 10 years ago, I think 10% of the population were skilled to do the questionnaire on the laptop, on the notebook, but they preferred to do it on the paper. And if you skip that, it could have maybe some influence. And there was addition of a new task section in literacy measurement, the component items, if you know, the reading components and also numeracy component were new, but the literacy component, well, were now taken for the estimation of the plausible values, and this is new. And if you look at that, we think that maybe the inclusion of this task maybe make it more precise, but it changed the measurement. And we think that maybe 10 years ago, 11 years ago, there was an overestimation for a share of people, especially with low skills, and making it now more precise. A precise measurement means a difference how it was measured, yeah, 11 years ago. And so we think, well, the observed decline for Austria is slightly more due to multiple factors rather than a single cause. Further analysis is needed to explore the underlying mechanisms. Yeah? This is, well, just because we have, well, I can further, then we can discuss it. We will publish on the 5th December, we will publish our expert report. There are 12 research articles in it. We're holding a research conference in Vienna, Statistics Austria in person recommended, but also online participation. So you're invited to join us. The only promise, it will be in German. So, so I'm sorry for that, but yeah, we decided to conduct it in German. And here's an excerpt from the research topics. We're looking at comparing the literacy skills of people who have completed apprenticeship in Austria, Germany, and Switzerland. So apprenticeship system is very important in Austria, as well as in Switzerland, as in Germany. And who made well, in-depth analysis of the proficiency of those people who have this apprenticeship graduate. Then we look at the people with low reading skills. We look at the typology, socio-demographics, and recommendations for action for comprehensive reading promotion, because we have a big share in Austria with people of low skills, and the question is how to reach them and how to promote well, a better reading policy. And we look at the learning and the workplace, participation in continuing education, and relationship with literacy skills, and for example also formal overqualification of workers. Well, we published already 2 research reports. I told you, one in December last year, one in May this year, and both publications are available for download free of charge as PDF files. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Thank you very much for your audience.